Church, for someone who claims to have such deep Southern values, Sutton sure lost all her sense of decorum as it relates to Dorit's break-in. So let's give her a lesson real quick. When your friend is robbed at gunpoint, your response is and always should be, oh my God, is she okay and how can I help? I've got my notes. I hope y'all got yours. Let's get on into this damn mess. All right, y'all, so let's start with our hot topics. And first and foremost, let's get into Dorit and this break-in. Now, y'all, I can't imagine the level of terror that goes through your head when you're robbed at gunpoint in your own home. There is a saying that the only two places that you'll find peace in life are in your home and in the grave. And so when someone comes in and violates the peace that you found in your home, what do you do? Like, how do you rebuild from there? How do you start the process of rebuilding your trust in humanity, in the security of your house, in the security, of your family? It's going to be a long process from there. So I'm so glad that Dorit is okay. I'm so glad that her children were spared. And, I'm glad that the angels were basically looking out for them, because these kind of situations, more often than not, they turn out very, very badly. And in terms of her recounting the story and talking about how, one of them was saying, kill them now. And she was saying, don't kill me. Like, please do not. My children need their mother. Please don't kill me. Like, they always say in those kind of fight or flight situations, you don't know how you're going to respond. And I think that Dorit was pivotal in saving her family, right? And so they always say, talk as much as you can, right? Advocate for yourself. Try to create, if you can't create a sort of kinship, just keep talking until they kind of understand, or until they kind of second guess anything that they were trying to do in that situation. So good for Dorit. And, my heart goes out to PK in terms of being so far away and feeling helpless and not being able to help your family, right? So an unimaginable situation, but I'm glad that it has a happy ending in terms of them being okay. Personally, I don't know how you proceed from here, right? Like, I know you go to therapy and stuff, but in terms of, do you just beef up security at your house, right? Do you invest in dogs and a new security detail, right? Or do you just leave? So y'all just drop down in the comments and let me know what you would do in the situation. Are you staying in your house and beefing up security, or are you out and we are moving to someplace else more secure with round-the-clock security and surveillance? And y'all let me know what you think. Now let's talk about the aftermath and the people rallying around her. Now, as I said before, this was kind of like an unimaginable situation, right? And when things happen like that, it really puts things into perspective in terms of if you had problems with people, if you had beefs with people, and it really makes you realize that life is short and we really have to focus on the important stuff and not let petty things keep us apart. So I liked how everybody in their own way, with the exception of Sutton, was able to rally around Dorit and her family and be there for her and PK in this time of need, right? It takes a village to raise a family, right? And I think that they have their village set up in a very good way, that when, trouble happened to Dorit, her friends descended upon the situation and were there with loving arms, words of support, and encouragement, and trying to help, right? Because that's really all you can do in that situation. You have to move off of what the victim went through in terms of what they want you to do for them, right? Like, there's no rule book for grief. There's no rule book to help somebody through a robbery at gunpoint. So I think more than anything, it's just about being there. And I think that her friends were there for her in the manner in which she needed, right? Now, y'all, let's get into Sutton's reaction, because I can't even start to believe it. Okay. So Kyle calls Sutton over to the Bel Air house, right? And personally, I think this might be a situation, y'all, when you don't properly brief somebody in terms of what y'all actually should be talking about in the conversation, and then they show up and they got their own thing they want to talk about. To me, it seems kind of reminiscent of that, right? Because Sutton came in and Mama wasn't featuring anything that had to do with Dorit and this damn robbery, okay? Mama said, I got this French designer down to immigration, honey, that can't get into the country, baby. I got to get him a K-1 visa and marry him at first sight and make him my 90-day fiance, baby, so I can get my damn house fixed, okay? But listen, She was not featuring anything about Dorit, and it was kind of the Sutton show. And so in that situation, I don't know what you do as the Kyle character, right? Like, do you say something in terms of this is going to come off insensitive, or do you let her just hang herself in the process? And I think Kyle basically did a little bit of both, right? She was like, well, Dorit is going through something, but she kind of just left it open-ended so that Sutton could kind of hang herself. Now, I guarantee y'all, this will not be the last time that we hear about this incident in terms of Sutton being insensitive. Something tells me that this is going to weave its way through the storyline this season, and I hope that Sutton, when she watches this back, she realizes that sometimes it's not all about you, girl. You have to really, if you're the Southern woman that you profess to be and you have these decorum values, you really have to take yourself out of a situation, even if you're having a bad day, even if your problems seem like, they're at the forefront of your mind. When someone is robbed at gunpoint, I am sorry, but they take precedent over everything else, right? Is it right? Is it wrong? That's for, y'all drop down the comments and decide. But I think Sutton was extremely insensitive, and I think she's going to regret those words that she said. Now let's get into our general updates and talk about this notion of mending fences. We see Sutton getting back with Crystal and Garcelle getting back with Dorit. Now, I'm a firm believer that the reason why these housewives are able to argue so severely and then make up so easily is because the arguments aren't really based on anything that deep, right? And so my general rule for relationships is one time is a fluke, twice is a pattern, right? So applying it to the housewives mentality, if I beef with you for one season and then we make a plan to move forward in a more constructive manner, then I'm going to press reset on the relationship and actually give it a try, okay? But if we take the same problems from the prior season and bring it into this season, then at that point, I'm going to have to reevaluate this relationship and what purpose it serves in my life. So one time is a fluke, twice is a pattern, and I wish these ladies luck in their newfound, newly tried relationship remixes with each other. I hope it works out. I'm cautiously optimistic, but we shall see. Now let's get into Sutton versus Rinna and this whole Watch What Happens Live Elton John story. So going back to the last season, if y'all will recall, apparently Rinna's husband made Garcelle some tomato sauce, right? And when they were at the house to get or to deliver the sauce, Garcelle thanked them for the sauce profusely, said she was so excited to have it, so on and so forth. And Rinna's whole thing was, once they left and once a few days passed, she did not get any sort of thank you text, right? And so that was the whole big, issue with them last season in terms of her not being grateful and this, that, and the third, right? So Sutton decides to Tootsie Roll her ass on Watch What Happens Live and stick up for her girl Garcelle, right? And she basically said, listen, I'm going to point out the contradiction in this situation, right? Because just as Rinna was hurt that Garcelle did not give her a thank you for the sauce, I too was hurt when I took Rinna and Harry Hamlin down to see Elton John, and I didn't get a thank you text the next day either, right? So listen, as far as I'm concerned, if Sutton and Garcelle are friends and she's sticking up for her girl, I don't really have a problem with it, okay? If you've already drawn your boundary lines in terms of whose team that you're on, then to me, all is fair in love and war at that point, okay? And if Rinna cannot see the contradictory nature of what she did, I don't know what she needs to do in the situation, right? If you can't see that there's a contradiction in terms of you hounding Garcelle for a thank you and in the same turn or in the same manner, you not giving a thank you to someone who took you to see Elton John, then the situations are kind of the same if you think about it. It's kind of the reverse of the whole situation, right? So we got to call a spade, and we got to call out contradictions where we can. So I don't have a problem with Sutton talking on Watch What Happens Live. And if Rinna has a problem, it's because she feels that, the contradictory nature of what she did and is kind of feeling a certain way about it. So y'all drop down in the comments and let me know what you think about that. But I ain't got no problems with Sutton in that respect. Now let's move on to Garcelle trying to fix the Erika Sutton relationship. Now listen, as I told y'all before, I'm okay with certain people mending fences, okay? But the people that I feel that don't need to mend fences in this damn group are Erika and Sutton, as well as Garcelle and Rinna, right? To me, we've tried so many ways to get them together to try to figure out if the relationship can survive a new iteration, a new remix, and it never works out, right? So I understand that Garcelle was trying to be a friend in that situation and wanted to kind of make it a kumbaya situation, but I just don't think it was her place to try to mend those kind of fences, right? To me, when you're trying to rebuild trust and you're trying to rebuild a relationship, you have to have two willing parties. And what we've seen is that Sutton is willing, right? Sutton is willing if Erika is willing, but Erika is not willing to try again with Sutton, right? So it can't be lopsided. If there's any chance of success, both people have to be on the same page, right? And because both people are not on the same page, I think Garcelle is pretty much wasting her breath, which is what we saw in that situation. So listen, good intentions, probably bad idea though. So let's move on. Now listen, the only good thing about the Erika Garcelle exchange is that it literally brought us as a good segue to our next point, which is talking about Erika and her disproven lawsuit claims. Now y'all listen. I'm going to give Erika the same advice that I would want to give Meg Thee Stallion after her interview with Gayle King, which is, until the lawsuit is figured out, shut your damn mouth. Stop talking. I understand that after so many salacious stories, after so much misinformation, and after feeling like, you're not getting your part of the story out, that you really want to go on the offensive and you want to start changing the narrative as it relates against you, right? But until the lawsuits are completely figured out, to me, you do nothing but dig yourself further in the hole by talking about things that aren't fully settled, right? To Garcelle's point, if they haven't seen in the news yet, then technically it doesn't really exist, right? Okay. And as we found out last season, with Erika being on the show and talking as open as she did in some respects, those people were already sending out subpoenas for the footage to Bravo, okay? So to me, silence is paramount in this situation. Talk about what you can talk about things that are factual, but in terms of things that are kind of like in flux and not figured out yet, it might be better just to stay quiet on those items, right? Just because you want to talk doesn't necessarily mean you should. And sometimes when you talk without having all of the evidence technically on your side or something to back up what you're saying, you just end up looking crazier in the process, okay? So until the damn lawsuits are figured out, Erika, just be quiet, girl. Just be quiet. I know it's hard, but just be quiet. Now, moving on to our last point, y'all, let's talk about Sutton's shade on Erika's dating and this whole concept of money or nah. So we find out in this first episode that both Sutton and Erika are back pretty much dating, but they're kind of going about it different ways. Erika, after being locked up with that damn old man for 20 plus years, all she wants to do is be screwed good, okay? That lady just wants some good sex down to the bed. She don't necessarily care who is coming from, right? And as for Sutton, she's kind of more looking for companionship, right? She tells Crystal that she wants somebody tall, that likes cats, that's nice, XYZ. The thing that I have a problem with in the situation, y'all, is Sutton's shade on Erika as far as what Erika might like, right? So when Sutton is talking to Kyle at Kyle's house, she basically tells Kyle that she thinks Erika is looking for someone rich, someone that's going to pay her bills, right? Now, I don't understand the level of revisionist history or righteous indignation that Sutton is seeming to have this episode, but lest we ever forget, right? When we met Sutton, we met her on the heels of her divorce from her ex-husband. As far as I know, we don't know Sutton for being a businesswoman, right? We don't know Sutton for being like a Bethany Frankel or a Martha Stewart, right? She has her store now, but as I remember it, the lion's share of her assets came from her divorce from her husband, right? And the forensic accountant that she hired in terms of finding out where all the money was, and even that she owned a share of a minor league baseball team, right? Like, You got your finances from your husband, and that's why in this respect you're telling Kyle that, you know, you're not looking for a man with money because you have your own money. Well, listen, baby, you and Erika, quiet as it's kept, got your money the same way, okay? So just because your settlement came down to a divorce court and was an equitable division of assets, and Erika basically had to abscond in the middle of the day with an armoire, a puppy, and a duffel bag, doesn't negate the fact that the source of your wealth comes from your former spouses, right? So I just didn't like the revisionist history and the righteous indignation in terms of trying to down Erika for wanting someone that can take care of her, right? When it seems, in all honesty, from what we're seeing on the screen, Erika ain't even worried about that right now. Like, she's just worried about having a good time and finding an outlet with which to let off some steam so she can get back to these damn cases, okay? So I don't know if Sutton is kind of positioning herself this season to be the mean girl, or if she's just tired of being like in the, I don't know, in the back position, but she's really kind of pushing the boundaries this season in terms of what she's going after and who she's going after and how she's going about it, right? So I hope that, you know, Sutton has not turned into a bad girl this season, but we shall see. But y'all, I think that's really all I wanted to say on this episode. So if you liked what I said, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all social media at DatDamnDasher. And until next time, y'all, in the words of Wendy Williams, a house has too many entrances and exits. Next time, pick a condo. One entrance, one exit. And I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.